Welcome to Millionaire Mindset, where we give you ways and advice to achieve financial freedom. Today, we will talk about the difference between the rich and the wealthy. Yes, these two are independent of each other as a matter of fact. You can be rich, but not wealthy. So we will look at some scenarios to figure out what sets apart wealthy people from just the rich. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and click the bell to get notified when we publish new videos. And be sure to watch the entire video to avoid missing any important details. Send us your questions and suggestions in the comments section because we'd love to hear from you. Without further ado, let's jump right into it. This whole idea of rich versus wealthy originally came from Robert Kiyosaki. Fans of the channel or other financial channels out there might be familiar with the name already, as he is one of the biggest stars of the financial world. But for those of you who are not familiar, Kiyosaki published a personal finance book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad in 1997. This book was his ticket to fame. And in one of his works, he mentioned the huge difference between being rich and being wealthy. To him, rich people might walk around having lots of money, but the wealthy people, aside from being as rich, don't even have to worry about money at all. It's a revolutionary idea at the time because we are primed to think that every rich person doesn't worry about money and live comfortably. We thought that rich and wealthy are synonymous even. But according to Kiyosaki, this is not the case. And from there, several obvious signs appear that we now see clearly the difference between the two. When we think of rich people, aside from having too much money, we perceive them as not ashamed of knowing the whole world that they are rich. They drive fancy cars, live in a fancy house located in a fancy neighborhood, eat at fancy restaurants every night wearing fancy clothes, and sit courtside at sporting events. This is the image that all kids want to achieve when they grow up. I mean, who doesn't dream this when they were kids, right? What Robert Kiyosaki was telling us is that we shouldn't just settle with being rich, that there's a higher level of wealth that we should aspire to, the state in which we don't have to worry about money at all. Many of you might relate to this. Growing up, my family was a relatively financially stable family, the one where you might call a middle-class type, not rich but not poor either. Both my parents work hard just to continually provide for our needs. Some days there will be extra where they will buy us toys or food, and in some days there wasn't enough, to the point that they will have to resort to borrowing money. So for over a decade, I was a witness to this back and forth kind of living. That's why the idea of living by not having to worry about money sounded so appealing to me. I mean, who doesn't want that? When I understood this concept, my new goal in life was not to buy lots of cars or travel the world, but to reach the level where I don't need to wake up every day having to worry if I have enough money for today. So how can we achieve this level? Well, the answer is very simple. Wealthy people have sustainable wealth. That's it. That's what sets apart the wealthy from the rich. Wealthy people will always be wealthy, while the rich will only be rich until their money runs out. It's a classic Hollywood story where an actor or a professional athlete, once the top of their craft, just declared bankruptcy or is now suffering from extreme poverty. You saw them dating supermodels, driving luxury cars, living in Beverly Hills, traveling the world, but now they're drug addicts, living off the streets and unrecognizable. You might wonder how they can possibly lose all of their money in just a span of a few years. But you have to consider the kind of lifestyle these celebrities have. Partying, entourage, keeping their public image, and so on. That's why it is very hard to maintain that kind of lifestyle once the movie deals or the endorsements don't come anymore, and they don't have a solid financial plan. Another sad story was about a person that was riddled with death. In a stroke of incredibly good luck, won the lottery, but in just a short period of time, managed to get back where he started, then got worse than before. This is a common thing among lottery winners. They don't know what to do with this huge amount of money. That's why they don't plan on how to use them properly. They will just do a string of bad financial decisions, thinking their money is unlimited until one day, it's back to zero. So let's look at a hypothetical situation. Carl is an engineer with an annual income of $300,000. His income is broken down into 95% coming from his job and only 5% from some small investment that he did just to appease his friends. So with a six-figure income, you will look at Carl and think that he's a rich man. There's no question about that. And the guy is not ashamed of flashing his wealth. He has a big house in a good neighborhood, 2 high-end vehicles. His kids are enrolled in the best private school in the city. And his way to unwind was to golf with his buddies every weekend in the local country club. He clearly has a lot of assets, but all of that requires maintaining. He has to wear new and expensive clothes at every event to keep his respectable image. His house still has a mortgage. His cars needed monthly maintenance and gas fees. His family needs to eat. He puts money into his kids' college fund. He pays for health insurances, taxes, utilities, and the list goes on. Not to mention, their wedding anniversary is getting very close and summer's just around the corner. He promised his kids Disneyland. So if you take all of these expenses, compute the total for the whole year, then subtract that to his $300,000 plus the little investment that he made, Carl is not left with much. Let's say that he spends about $21,500 monthly in expenditures, and his savings amount to a total of $43,500. If he maintains his job and this lifestyle, Carl and his family should be fine. But if he somehow loses his job, his savings will only last for 2 months. After that, he will have to find another job immediately to recover. Wealth can be defined as the status of an individual's financial resources to sustain his or her way of living for a length of time, even if that individual stops working. With this definition, Carl is not wealthy, just rich. Now let's compare him to Bill Gates. He is still one of the richest men in the world, even after he left Microsoft for quite some time now. In 2018, Bill Gates was worth $97.4 billion. Each second, he adds $130 to his name, $7,800 every minute, and $468,000 every hour, meaning he earns more in an hour than Carl does in a year. Yet Carl is considered rich by the world's standards. Another difference between our hypothetical Carl and Bill Gates is that Bill can just play Xbox or sleep all day or cure polio and he will earn that money regardless. Whereas Carl needs to report to work to get paid. Being wealthy is essentially living financially free, meaning you have saved enough money and or have passive income flow through investments and businesses that can sustain your lifestyle for the rest of your life. Wealthy people are rich people that don't run out of money. If Carl quits his job, his family will be in the middle class in a month or 2. But if Bill Gates decided to give up all of his investments and just stay in his cabin, he can still maintain his lifestyle for the next 213 years, long after his death. I know what you're thinking. The comparison is unfair. One is a hypothetical engineer while the other is in some way responsible for the device that you're holding right now. Of course, Bill Gates doesn't worry about money. He's giving it away. Well, you don't need to have the gargantuan money to be wealthy. As long as you have the constant passive income flow that can sustain your lifestyle for the rest of your life, then you are considered wealthy. The common image of a rich person is the one who has the money for both his need and his wants. But even though you see rich people in their $5,000 suit, $3,000 watch, beach house, and their imported German car, that doesn't mean they're financially stable. Sometimes they're doing it just for the show. If you look at their financial statements, you will see that they're drowning in debt and are living paycheck to paycheck. Rich people don't care about the future. They just want to live in the now. As long as their social status is kept intact, they're happy. So the question for you now is, do you want to be rich or do you want to be wealthy? Thank you so much. I hope you liked the video and learned the difference between the rich and the wealthy. That's all for now. Join us again next time here in Millionaire Mindset for another round of tips in achieving your financial freedom. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.